Morning, everyone. This is the next video in our series that will give an overview of UAT Group as a conglomerate, as well as do a little more specific, deeper dive into the subsidiaries. So to get started, this particular one will be about H2O processing. We're going to go over what H2O processing does, some of its operations, what it offers, and brief overview on projections. So let's get started. The H2O Processing is a water treatment technology company. Now, most people are familiar with the mobile unit, which is the 3 tractor trailers. They're about 54 feet in length, if I recall correctly. A mobile operations or command center that that will remotely as well as on site have the capabilities of operating the system. It also interconnects with on-site power. In many instances in the mobile unit, that's going to be a generator that the customer has out on site, but can also integrate into 3-phase power, industrial power, and so forth. So what do they have? What do they offer? So as far as the mobile units are concerned, and many of you are familiar with this, but I'll go over it again quickly. These units can be delivered essentially anywhere on site. Typical operations are within the oil and gas and mining operations, but can also be used for disaster recovery efforts or to support those efforts. We also have a land or fixed system that can be built out as a water treatment facility, in many instances dealing with sewage or operations of a more permanent nature or sustained effort for water treatment. The other operations that we don't get into a lot of are the maritime units. Those units can be put on fixed or floating units such as a barge or even any other type of watercraft that has a capacity to hold the system or the apparatus in series. So we can put a unit in the middle of an area, a large body of water that would be addressing direct issues such as if there was an oil spill would be one example, or if you have a large lake like we have here in Florida, you can put that in that lake and deal with some of the algae blooms or some of the contamination from farming and so forth. So you're able to clean those large bodies of water. And how much water you can clean depends on system size and contamination to the area. So it varies. There are variables that affect the time on cleaning. So I won't go too far into that, but that is essentially what H2O offers as far as a treatment system. Now, there are some things that we haven't discussed in the past that H2O does provide. Fracking trailers would be one of them. So these trailers are essentially offices, in either built in similar to what you would see on the mobile unit, they'd be on the tractor trailer, or in shipping containers. And we're able to drop those remotely. So this is a good example of how the subsidiaries work together. So UAT has the intellectual property of the technology that would allow a shipping container to create its own power, right? So we could put those in very remote locations that would be able to support operations for water treatment, or as a mobile operation center that could be picked up and relocated on an as-needed basis. So these trailers or these containers are built out with desks and computers and would be able to integrate different systems into that particular unit, right? So that is another thing that they do. You'll be hearing more about this in the future. By the time you see this video, you may have heard of them already because we're working on a few things with those, but they're very interesting and they should be a significant contributor to the bottom line and even top line growth across the entire company. So there is a need for that type of system and that product, and they are filling it. So that's as far as H2O and what it encompasses. That is another portion or another piece of its business model. Another piece would be within its research and development side, the ability to develop additional technologies that would work in tandem with the existing apparatus. So an example would be um, the evaporators that are currently under development and that we're getting ready to launch. So if you have water that has a higher chloride count, such as the water in Texas, right? So depending on the region you're operating in, the water is different. So if you're operating in Oklahoma, the chloride count will be a little lower than if you were in Texas, which typically has a higher salinity count. So what we can do in those instances to help with maintenance and reliability and the preservation of the equipment is we can evaporate that water, that contaminated water, separate out the contaminants in a form that's dried, and then we can continue to process that water or that evaporated water through the system. So what that does, and I'm sure the question is, why would you do that? Just put it through the system. What that does is affords H2O the opportunity to treat a much wider spectrum of water. If you can pull out, any type of particulate matter that's suspended in there before going through the system, it changes the molecular structure of the water. I mean, you can only push physics so far, correct? So what we have to do with the water, depending on the TDS or total dissolved solids, what you have to do is pre-treat that water. This affords us the opportunity to say we can treat anything. Doesn't matter what's in the water. In fact, they've done that. So in the past, they've been able to treat all kinds of contamination, including radioactive or water that's come into radioactive material, so that we can treat that and have on the other end water that comes out that's potable, right? So we have everything from those type of contaminants, high level of toxicity, to chloride counts and any other particulate matters, as well as even raw sewage. So this particular technology is highly dynamic and can be tailored to specific needs. In fact, all systems in some regard are custom, right? So the starting price on a lot of the mobile systems around that $2 million mark. We've discussed that before, but in many instances, we would have to adjust some of the processes within that system that would fit that specific water that's being treated or that the client needs to be treated, right? So it is, again, not just a system that has vast capabilities in treatment, but it's dynamic. It can be dynamic on the fly. The system is built to be interchangeable so that we reduce repair times. So if the system is down, we can go in and replace a section that needs, or address a section that needs to be addressed. So to give you an example, we do have units in the field, and one of which of those units had issues with the water structure changing. We were able to have someone on site very quickly within hours. We flew them out to discover that the customer on site was tinkering, for lack of a better term, with the system based on what they were trying to accomplish, which we always do not recommend. You allow us to change that remotely. All of our systems are operable. We can access them remotely and change that per system requirements. The whole thing is automated. So there should be no reason to go in there physically and make adjustments. In this particular instance, that was done. We scolded them for playing with the toys, and then we had someone out there very quickly and were able to rectify and address that issue. This is across the entire company. We can do that at any time. We have everything in place as far as engineering, troubleshooting, programming. There's quite a bit that goes into a system, especially one of the mobile systems, right? So this system is designed to be as dynamic as possible, but also as efficient as possible. It's designed that if there is an issue, it can be repaired or addressed very quickly. The last thing a client, especially in that industry, wants is to have the inability to process clean water where now they cannot continue drilling or mining operations. that the costs associated with that are high, especially by the hour in that particular industry. So that was a good field test on that particular device, and it went very, very well. So in the end, the result was that it was not a design flaw, and it was not the result of the equipment failing or the result of anything that we had made changes remotely. So I was very pleased with how that unit performed and how they continue to perform. So again, that's just to the mobile system, right? So we will be working on future systems. We have tested maritime units in the past. Those work very effectively in different areas. We're looking at deploying a few more in the future for a particular client. We're in the process of working on several contracts, and we'll get further into that, but we're, for potential clients, so that we can move forward with deploying multiple units, multiple types of units, I should say. So the process within H2O is not just to deliver units, but also to provide a service. So the units have a cost, but we can provide a service, which obviously brings in recurring revenue for the organization on a monthly monitoring program. And that will also include troubleshooting as well as maintenance and so forth. We can schedule that and have that done for the client. And it's the preference that we do that. And I find that most clients that are looking into using this particular system or this technology prefer to have us manage that, which is smart because most people don't understand the technology. And in fact, H2O is the first company that's been able to take this base of technology, which is the electrocoagulation, but also put it in series with other developed technologies and make it work. People have tried various ways to clean water, even in some instances using similar technologies. The problem is that if you can't separate the total dissolved solids in the water on a molecular level, you're going to have a problem. And that's what people have found in the past. We have been able to overcome that problem and address that particular issue with technology. And as a result, we've been able to move forward and have a very efficient, very reliable machine that, despite the price tag, is very cost effective. I know that the price may seem high to shareholders out there that are not working in the industry, but that is it is drastically and exponentially less expensive than some of what the solutions that they're currently using. So we anticipate it to be very popular. In fact, there's a lot of interest right now, and we are fielding many inquiries into the technology. So we've gone over the cost a little bit. Costs are going to vary. The mobile unit starts at that particular price tag, but fixed and maritime units are going to be a little different. And it's difficult to say what they're going to cost in this video because they vary greatly. When you look at a maritime unit, right, you put them on barges. Is that barge going to need to be under power? Is that going to be fixed? Is that going to be on a ship of some sort? What is the body of water? What are your goals? So if the customer says we want to clean 100,000 barrels of water a day, what does that look like? How much equipment is needed in order to deliver that result? And then the body of water matters too, right? And then what you're trying to take out of the water, which is important. So that testing has to be done. So we'll go back to testing and the original testing to get this thing approved, right? So currently, H2O has the only authorized permit to operate and clean water and put back onto ground. So when you clean water, you usually have to remove it off site. It has to be processed, and there's a whole process in order to dispose of that water. We do not have to do that. Our water is cleaned as such that we can take that treated water, that cleaned water, and put it back on ground. So why are we allowed to do that? So the minimum standards, and we were part of writing the standards with the state, is 500 parts per million. We put water in on the test to get it approved, between 25 and 30,000 parts per minute. The water came out, 001, so 1 part per million. This was incredible. In fact, everyone on site started checking the equipment. Even the regulators were using additional testing equipment because the fear was, is this particular equipment not working? Do we have an issue with the equipment? All equipment registered the same results. And to date, we're the only ones that have been able to deliver those results. So when you're looking at being authorized to put water back on ground, that's a big deal. We don't have to leave the site. We can treat water on site, take out the contaminants, and put it back on site into the ground, onto the ground, so that it can go back into the water table safely and not affect the environment, not affect the fish, not affect people who may be in the area using well water. Water is actually cleaner than the natural water that exists in the environment there. You're not going to pull water out of the ground that's 001. You're just not. There's going to be many different minerals in the water. The TDS count on that's going to be much higher. When you look at what comes out of your faucet, in many parts of the country, they're well over 100 parts per million. So this is almost distilled water levels, right? Very, very close. So we did various tests. They went from 001 to 004, which really impressed everyone and impressed me when I was hearing about the results. So we did very well with that. We were approved, and we're the only ones that have that permit currently to date. And that test was done 2 years ago, and was just redone about a year ago. So we are constantly pushing to advance the technology. Now we can take on even higher particulate matter in the water, higher TDS counts, what we're testing in Texas for the total dissolved solids that exceed 30, 40, 50, 70,000 parts per million. That's where those evaporators come in. And we are currently working with another organization. We're going to be making announcements. By the time this video comes out, we might have already made the announcement, but we are bringing on another strategic partner out of Texas to provide various technologies and equipment. So we're very excited about what H2O has accomplished and what it's able to do. The water it's able to produce, the ramifications of this type of technology in the industry are significant. I can't say that. It's an understatement to say that. When you're looking at contamination and pollution in the oceans, when you're looking at our lakes just in this country alone, when you're looking at Superfund sites, which we have looked at, that the irony of a Superfund site is most of them are underfunded. So I don't know why they have the term Superfund, but they typically don't have money. So they need someone to come in and clean that water. We're currently taking a look at all of the Superfund sites and many municipalities that are having trouble, that are over capacity with just treating city water and sewage. So we are really excited about the future for H2O. We will be making several announcements coming up very soon, and I anticipate there to be a very good response by it. So let's talk about projections. What does this all mean for us as shareholders, right? I won't get into specifics. I say this every video. I'm not going to get ahead of disclosures. Those numbers need to be done in an official capacity so that we can disclose everything per regulations and SEC guidelines. But what I will say is that we do have some targeted revenues, some projections for H2O. So over the next 12 months, we anticipate revenues in excess of 20 million from H2O. Now, let me be clear, that will encompass the totality of their operations projections. Now, I won't get into specifics on what my opinion is on what I think, if we're going to exceed that or not. What I will say is I feel that this particular target and projection is very attainable. I feel it's a fair assessment of their capabilities, and I'm very confident that we're going to meet those marks. Myself and the leadership team over there have discussed expanding operations. So how are we going to do that, right? So one of the things is currently H2O, or at the time of me recording this video, H2O is headquartered out of Colorado. we are going to be bringing operations here to Florida and potentially Arizona as well as Texas. There's a reason for that. Geographically, to deliver such technologies as well as additional testing, we need to be in different areas, and these particular areas have different water requirements. Now, there's going to be some testing done up north in the Pennsylvania area in that particular region. We're going to be testing various technologies that we are currently working on. So look to see a lot on H2O and the expansion therein or thereof. So right now, we are currently looking for a place that we can, here in Florida, we are currently looking for an industrial site where we would be able to service the contracts we're currently working on. So it's a larger site, obviously. I mean, these are tractor trailers, they're for the mobile, as well as some of those mobile offices or those containers that we discussed earlier in the video. So we will be building those out. So that again, so let me be very clear, those contracts are not finalized. Anything can happen in business, right? So the potential for those contracts to not go through exists. I feel confident by the time this video comes out anyway, those are probably already been executed and announced. But in the meantime, we are working to address the inquiries that have come in, but also service the needs of existing clients and potential clients. So look for that in the future if it hasn't already happened by the time this videos come out. So and I'm heavily involved in those negotiations. In fact, when you look at all of the subsidiaries across, I involve myself in across all subsidiaries in that I try to be as helpful as possible, because the resources of UAT Group and UAT are such that they can bring a significant value add for our subsidiaries, and in many cases they have, and they continue to do so. So I'm involved across the board. When you look at things like Ossifix, even Nextcast and Bacter, as well as Boost and IGS Skin over at Dreaming Company, we are constantly going back and forth, and that's part of what I keep reiterating to everyone, is that as an organization, all the subsidiaries and strategic partners work together. We're always looking to assist one another to advance the whole. So I think that is something that shareholders should be made aware of, and they should be encouraged by that, because when you have a comprehensive team like we do, it helps to ensure success. So I won't keep rambling on here. I know the videos run a little long, but I want to make sure everybody has an understanding of each subsidiary and what my expectations of them are and what they can expect. And all of us expect as shareholders. We're all shareholders. In fact, all the employees are shareholders. It's designed that way intentionally. I want to make sure that everyone has a vested interest in our success, our collective success. So I'll wrap it up here. I want to do a couple of thank yous here. I've been getting a lot of emails. I say this every video, but I don't want to ignore or brush over the amount of support we've had. We've had a lot of shareholders that are incredibly supportive, calling all the time, emailing, offering suggestions and assistance. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? I don't operate under the premise or the delusion, I should say, that we have it all. We think of everything. We're not perfect, and I really appreciate the input and the support, and shareholders taking it upon themselves to say, hey, we're part of the team too, because we are all invested in this company. So thank you very much for reaching out to me. I know for many people it can be intimidating to reach out to a company or even to its chief executive, but I don't want to give the impression that you can't reach out to me. I return all phone calls. I return all emails. Now, the little caveat to that is you may not get a response from me in 5 minutes. I typically respond within 48 hours. I do my best to make sure that I can do it as quickly as possible, schedule permitting, right? So I make sure that if you do not receive a response from me, or do not hear from me within 48 hours, I did not get that message. So please call back. we're pretty good here. Everyone's conditioned to make sure that I get that. They know how I am about that. But I do get back to everyone, and I want to hear from everyone. This dynamic that you and I have as shareholders affords me the opportunity to take a temperature of what's going on with shareholders, and also afford me the opportunity to respond. If I don't hear about it, I can't address it. So you'll notice many of you, when you send in something to the investor relations department, a lot of times you're going to get a response from me because I ask them, what's happening, what's going on, what are we getting. If they say something that I feel would be better addressed by me, not to overstep or undermine their efforts, but many times you're going to get a response directly from me. So if it has my name on it, it is from me. I spoke with one shareholder. I called her back and she was shocked. She couldn't believe it was me. It is me. So I do my best to make sure that I'm accessible, and I do take those phone calls and emails. So again, thank you for just the tremendous level of support and encouragement that you as shareholders have given us. And we are as equally as excited as you are. This is a very exciting time for us now. We may seem a bit poised and reserved at times, but that's because there is so much going on. And I look at my calendar, I have, as far as press releases and everything else that are going on, the next 7 weeks, I always have about 7 weeks, are planned down, even down to the hour in many instances. We have a plan of action that we have for about a 5-year projected plan, but we also have a 12 and 18-month plan that we are trying to stick to very, very strictly. And then that contributes to a 3-year model that I've outlined for everyone here. So again, I'll wrap it up, keep going on. I apologize. Thank you for your support. Be sure to like and subscribe, and also turn your notifications on. I'm surprised at how many people will call in or ask a question that may have just been answered on a tweet or a Facebook post or even a video. So go to YouTube, do the whole like and subscribe thing, turn on your notifications so that you're always made aware of it. We are going to be, and I'm sure you've noticed, increasingly engaging through social media. And that includes the Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube accounts. I know Candace is working on the Instagram account. We just launched an affiliate program this morning. By the time you see this video, it probably would have been a couple weeks ago, but we are really engaging and turning things on. I've taken the handcuffs off, if you will, and said, look, just go everywhere, do everything you can do. Let's get it done. We have a lot to accomplish this year, and there's no reason to hold back. So we'll be in full disclosure mode here and trying to be as transparent and as helpful to you with your increase as possible. So again, thank you very much. I look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you.